What's going on, folks, and welcome into the Pigskin Preview on Mancini Sports and the Knucklehead Podcast Network. We are taping this episode. We will be back live next week, next Tuesday at our normal time at 6 p.m. Pacific on Mancini Sports. We have Baltimore Blaine, Coach Christopher Taylor. He's also going to be joining us next week on the live show. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you tune in for that. This week we had another fun week in the NFL, another crazy week. Wasn't quite as shocking as week 3, but week 4 had a lot of surprises, a lot of games that shot out, some games that we thought were going to shoot out that didn't. I think the pace for touchdowns and passing yards this year is the most since 2007, I believe is what I read. It's kind of a crazy year, and I think at the top of that, we'll start off with kind of a little dose of are they for real or not? Because we're 4 games into the season now, and we need to see these teams for real or they're not. And a lot of times at the beginning of the season, they have some kinks to work out. People are suspended, blah blah blah. We don't really know if what we're seeing is what we're going to get towards the end of the year. But now things are starting to round out a bit. You have some devastating injuries come through, like we did this last week, so that really can kind of shape the team. But I think we're starting to see some teams and the warts and the good side of a few of the teams in the NFL. So let's talk about some surprises that happened this week. So I'm going to welcome in. We'll go to Blaine, and then we'll go to Coach Christopher. Blaine, Mitchell Trubisky threw about 6 touchdowns in a few minutes and could have thrown 20 if he wanted to. Is that for real, or is that just Tampa Bay just that bad?
I'm going to say that I'm going to hold my running for the Mitchell Trubisky bus right now. He did do it against the Tampa Bay's sieve of a defense. So I'm not going to. I mean, that defense is horrible, and I'm not going to give him one game. Chicago put up 48 points on this Tampa Bay team. And this Tampa Bay team is just horrible. The offense is now, the Fitz magic has died off, and now we're seeing what they're really about. So now I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon just yet. I'm going to hold off, see him do it again and again against good defenses, and then I'll believe in Trubisky.
Coach Taylor?
I tend to want to agree with Blaine. However, Mitch is impressive. Early in his career, he made some really good reads, really good throws down the field. Has a really good receiver core that's around him, so they have opportunity to grow and become really good. So, but it's yet to be seen because a lot of the time, once 4 games, 5 games, maybe 6 games into a season, teams usually start to figure out the nuances of the new guy, the new kid on the block has to say, and then they start to level out. But not to take anything away from him, very impressive. But I don't know if any of us picked Tampa Bay to finish. Well, we probably pick them to finish dead last in that conference. So, I don't know what it says. We'll see how they play. We'll see how they play more in the upcoming season.
Yeah, I don't think any of us expect. Yeah, go ahead.
No, are we breaking this game down right now, or we want to do that later?
No, we're just kind of talking about Mitch and just one of the things. There's a couple of trends that I'm noticing that I want to see if they're for real. So, just to break down kind of what you said real quick is, I don't know if you want to see it against a good defense. I mean, no one expects him to put up these kind of numbers against a good defense.
Right.
Ooh. No.
Right. That's my point exactly. So
yeah.
But it's still the NFL, and it's still impressive to see that he's making that kind of connection with his receivers because we all watched the game. I'm sure those are some really good throws.
Against
some really good deep out routes and some deep corner routes and stretching the field vertically. You look at his body, his toughness. you can understand why Chicago kind of made that pick, because you can see potentially what he could be.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot how what a good OC Nagy is. And I think
Yeah.
that they really made and he's in that next generation of what's moving forward and getting rid of Fox and getting Nagy in. I mean, it's just a night and day difference. And of course, thank you to the Raiders from the Bears for giving up Khalil Mack, because that guy is a monster. Oh my God, it looks like a high school kid playing with fifth graders out there. He just mauls people. I mean, he's
And,
faster, he's bigger, he's stronger. He's just a monster.
and he's more
Chris,
and
that
he's
guy is a
intelligent.
football player.
Yeah,
He's
he's
a football
intelligent
player.
too. Yeah, he's also
Yeah.
very intelligent, to add to what Blaine is saying, because for you to be able to make a jump to two different systems and still have the same impact that you had, as if you never changed teams, you just changed uniform. You know what I'm saying? That was impressive to see. And like immediate impact on that defense. They went from really good to really, really good, man. So it's yet to be
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, and he the first week he was in there, he made Aaron Rodgers' life absolute hell. It was just
Hmm.
immediate. The impact that he made immediately, and that defense was already pretty good.
Yeah,
I think they're
Poor
leading the league.
Raiders.
I think they're leading the league in sacks. Yeah, the Raiders sure could have used him this week, right? And every week.
Yeah.
That's just such a dumb move. I don't understand that. But talking
well,
about other
well,
things,
but the Raiders have always had the philosophy, and we want to send a shout out to our man Shane McGowan. I don't want to disrespect his Raiders, but they always have a tendency of making the quarterback the highest paid guy on the team. That's just their philosophy. And Khalil Mack would have demanded to be paid more than Carr. And I don't think that's not the Raider way, if you understand what I mean by that.
yeah. Well,
But does
I
any
guess
but does anybody know what his contract was with Chicago? What it turned out to be? Is he getting
he's
paid
the
more than
high,
Carr?
I don't know if he's getting paid more than Carr. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can look it up later in the show, but I know that Aaron Donald was the highest paid defensive player for 1 day or two
For one
days or
day,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and
And
then
after that
and then
contract, it
Khalil
was
Mack.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, Khalil Mack is now the highest paid. But I think Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack deserve it. They're game
Yeah.
changers.
absolutely,
They're game changers.
absolutely.
Absolutely, they're game changers. So why don't we go the other way around this time, Coach? We'll start with you. Let's break down a couple of the games that we saw, and we'll inject in some of those "is this for real or not" topics in the games that we break down. I know a game that you wanted to talk about a little bit was Dallas and Detroit.
Yeah.
What do you? Why don't you break down what you saw? Because I was telling Blaine that I think that if you play that game 10 times, Detroit wins 8 of them. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but why don't you tell me what you think about that?
No. I agree. I in our picks, I picked Detroit to beat Dallas, and I thought it would be a close one, and it was. It was a very exciting game. If about the most entertaining Cowboy game I've seen in a long time. Um, and you saw two, tough guys going at it. Man, what can I say about Matt Stafford? He's just a really, really hard nosed, go getter, blue collar quarterback, and you have to respect his game. But I really thought, there were, the difference of the game boiled down to just it seemed like a good break. The breaks seemed to fail their way, and so Dallas, got a victory out, and I think they needed that victory morally because, it's and Dallas fans can be ridiculous. They can be 3 games, 3 games in your division. You might as well consider yourself gone. Who you going to chase in your division if you're already 3 games in the loss column?
Yeah, I think that Dallas wanted that game more, so they got that game, and I agree with you, Chris, that I would say 9 times if they played that game 10 times, 9 times out of 10, Detroit would have probably won that game. Matt Stafford still threw for over 300 yards and 2 TDs. And Golden Tate, man,
Yeah.
8 for 8, 132 yards and 2 TDs. The thing that's going on with that, the thing that's keeping that made that Dallas game become a victory was the offense of Dak being serviceable, Zeke being a monster and Cole Beasley being reliable. And that Dallas defense did put pressure on Stafford, which was great. But you have that Dallas, that Detroit, very potent. They look like they're coming around to being what I was expecting early on from there of just, running down the field on bad defenses. But I really expect you would really expect the Cowboys to off of that.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, to kind of add to it, at the same time, Dak Prescott, this is kind of what you knew they drafted him for because, for, he was tough in college and now he's tough as a pro. And like you said, Elliott was exactly what we knew he was going to be, and which is the staple of Dallas. They always want that running back, that guy, and that's exactly what they have. That offensive line is starting to gel, and they're getting really good. They're running the ball really well, and we are. And I think we said this earlier when we talked about it in the earlier part of the season, Blaine, how we anticipated the Cowboy to have on paper one of the best, maybe the best offensive line in the league, definitely top 5 when we discuss between them, the Rams, and Jacksonville. And Jacksonville is good on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. But not to digress, it was a really hard-nosed game, and I think it was more of a desperation win for Dallas because you can't afford to be too many games back if you want to compete in that division. So, yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the things, but the Dallas offensive line isn't that, they do have it when they're all together, but they have like that freak illness for their the highest paid guard in the NFL. The center's got problems. They can't keep the left tackle in. And everyone knows the ball's going to Zeke. Dak hasn't, if you look at the stats, Dak hasn't done well since his rookie year. And it's becoming obvious. And what they did was not only did they, hurt him with the offensive line getting a little bit worse, is then they took away his weapons. You can't take away Dez and give him Tavon Austin and expect him to do something. It's not fair. But
I think I'm sorry, Chris, but I think where they want the offense to move to, and the future of that requires them to have guys that can run routes, which is why they changed and went with what they have right now. It's not the greatest, but the one thing that complements ability is dependability, right? So that's kind of what you kind of want when you got a guy that can run a route. If he's supposed to be at 7 yards and you throw the ball when he's coming off the break at 7, you expect him to be there. And good route runners will be where they're supposed to be. And that's just kind of what you didn't get out of Dez, which is the reason why he was so expendable.
That's fine. But do you really depend on Tavon Austin? You're a Rams guy. Tell me, do you depend on Tavon Austin to be able to get the job done?
Oh, you know that. I didn't depend on that when he was here.
Yeah, so so they go out and you get
I knew that contract that gave they contract that gave Tavon, you and I both agreed was a prelim to a severance package. Listen, we're gonna say bye to you. Here's some money. Goodbye. We don't have to pay it all to you unless somebody else picks up the portion of it. It's worth it to us,
I think Dallas is going in the absolute wrong direction. The Seahawks showed that if you just can play, which is a so-so defense right now, if you can just play, discipline, the Cowboys can't do anything. I think what Matt Patricia and the Lions need to worry about is the fact that game should have been theirs. If they could have just kept, Zeke a little bit under wraps and, got off the field on 3rd down a couple of times, Matt Stafford could have thrown 450, 500 yards, whatever it would have been. But that defense, when you can't get Matt Stafford and those guys on the field because your defense can't stop anybody, you're not going to win games.
But keeping Zeke under wraps is a difficult thing because you have to do that with eight guys at least. And if you bring up 8 guys, that leaves you vulnerable and soft for those guys like Cole Beasley and Tavon to get in space and to tear you up. So
But they haven't torn
teams,
anybody up yet.
but they haven't torn anybody up yet. That's just the problem, you know.
I
Blaine,
just
what do you think?
I just want to say, guys, I just want to say Zeke, 240 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
beast,
Yeah.
dude. You know, so keeping him under wraps is not the easy thing because you're going to load the box, but that offensive line is still skilled enough, and they're just now starting to gel. They've had so many problems up until this point in the preseason, guys not healthy, and then let's be honest, they kept guys back most of the preseason because so they're just now starting to play their way into shape for real. How many reps should they really get in the preseason though? So they could be formidable with the run game, but they're kind of one dimensional because they have no, in my opinion, no threats in the middle zone and you have a vertical threat maybe with Tavon Austin, but if you throw it to him 10 times, he'll catch it, what, 4, maybe 5?
Maybe for 2 yards. I remember I had Tavon in DraftKings one time, and all I needed for him was to do something. And I threw it at him 12 times. He had 10 catches, I think, for like 4 yards.
Yeah.
Killed me. Yeah. Anyways, so Coach, break it down for me. Do you think Dallas is going to turn this thing around? Is this the sign of something new, or are you just or is this team still going down? Because I think they're going
Hey,
down. So why don't we get your opinion, and we'll get Blaine.
man, I think this is your typical Dallas. And I don't know, they've kind of showed us who they are over the past, and it's kind of the same thing. I'm not sure if it's going to be a coaching change or somebody to step in and say, hey, Jerry, you stay upstairs, let me handle downstairs, and we'll be all right. But I know that's probably not going to happen. So, but I agree with you, Chris. They're definitely headed in the wrong direction at this point. And even if they're going in the same direction, that's still the wrong direction, in my opinion. They haven't changed much. In fact, they got a little bit worse.
Blaine, what about you?
Yeah, I think they're retooling here and living off the hype that Dallas always lives off of. They're not as good as they want to project they are, or that their fans want to believe they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them going anywhere this year, and depends on what they do in the off season. But I'm not putting any faith that they're going to make the right decisions because they haven't been doing that in the past years. So I see them as, and Coach, you put it great. If you're stagnant, you're going in the wrong direction. You know, if you're not progressing, you're going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. And does Dallas truly have to be good? Do they really have to have a winning record? Because their fans are going to love them and support them, and they can be 4-8, and the fans will still figure out a way how mathematically the Cowboys can still make the playoffs. So it doesn't truly matter to Jerry whether the winning helps, but they're still going to make their money anyway. They are Cowboys. Then Cowboy
One hype.
fans are going to support, and all they need is the hype. They don't even have to have a winning record. All they need is the hype, and that sells Dallas in itself. So at this point, I do agree, Blaine. They're retooling right now, but hey, it was a really good win for them on Sunday, and so we'll see how the season progresses for them even more.
Well, why don't we go to a team? Why don't we go to a game that has one of our homer teams in it, and we'll go to the Sunday night game where the Baltimore went into Pittsburgh and beat them pretty soundly.
Woo!
Uh, yeah. So why don't you take that away and kind of tell me what you saw? Uh, I can tell you that I think that John Brown found his home. I think he fits that offense perfectly, and I think that what you've been saying all off season long and all the beginning of the season, that Joe Flacco has been rejuvenated. I don't know if it was because of that kid coming in, uh, Jackson coming in, and then it started. But it's more than just like that. I mean, he looks fresh. He looks crisp. He looks healthy. He looks good. So tell me about what happened on Sunday night for him.
Well, it's a combination of things with Joe Flacco. It's good health. He's healthy. He's got weapons, reliable weapons. He's got faith in those weapons, and it is, in my opinion, a dose of Lamar Jackson being sitting behind him, being drafted. This is the last year of Joe Flacco's guaranteed money on his contract. His contract goes to 2021, I believe, and this is the last year of guaranteed money. Now, for him to be this remain a starter in this contract and play out this contract or get a new one, he's got to perform. Joe Flacco is focused. You know, they call him January Joe because usually he comes alive and takes it up a notch in the postseason. He's there now. Now, not to say that you're not going to see some regressions every now and then. We saw a little bit of that in the Cincinnati game, but he still had, even with that game, he still had a good game, put up good numbers. He threw for more times than you want to see him throw. But in this game, he dissected that Pittsburgh defense, that Pittsburgh secondary. That Pittsburgh secondary is horrible. My ex-girlfriend's thong can cover better than these D-backs. I mean, they're just horrible. And it's not the Le'Veon Bell, because unless Le'Veon Bell comes in and plays defense, plays safety or cornerback, you're going to still have these problems. Oh, and there's the argument. Yeah, well, the offense will stay on the field longer. I'm not so sure of that. I've been talking about the decline of Ben Roethlisberger. He holds the ball too long. He makes bad choices. He serves up the ball to the defense 3 to 5 times a game. So whether it's up to the defense whether or not they want to capitalize on that. The Ravens capitalized on it twice, I believe, and then had they took the ball away from the tight end, who considers himself one of the Avengers now, I guess. And one good stiff arm, and now he's like a national hero. It's just that they just exposed the hype of the Steelers for the hype they are. The Steelers had one good quarter, the second quarter. That's all they're doing all year long. Is they're making one good quarter to being the second quarter as being their pot of gold. They were totally shut down in the second half, and we're talking about a potent offense. It's still a potent offense when they're together, but the Ravens defense did enough to disrupt them, and I think Wink Martindale's his philosophy is more like Rex Ryan's, where he's more aggressive, less conservative to close out games. And it works, and these defenders believe in it, and they're showing it.
And you get Steve Smith back, right?
We get Jimmy Smith.
Oh,
Jimmy Smith.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith's he's behind the microphone now. No, but Jimmy Smith, he comes off suspension. He'll be back. That's a big part of this defense. I'm gonna tell you, I said on the previous show. On the Pick'em show, I believe I said it on the air, was my biggest concern on that secondary was Brandon Carr, because I expected Ben to torch him. I expected Antonio Brown to torch him because he seems to get torched every game. He stepped up and has some nice defenses. Oh my God, I think that's the best game, probably his best game of his career, at least the one that I've seen. So that's a strong.
Look good.
No, I was going to say that's a strong defense, and they've proven it here.
And I also think Flacco did a good job of managing the game and managing the crescendo, if I could say it that way. They peaked right at the right time and sustained a really nice drive. That one drive where you saw how he looked a little nimble, stepping up into the pocket, sliding out and clearing. So that's what it looks like when we got I think a really healthy Joe Flacco. I'm not really sure he's been healthy. Blaine, you can maybe better insight on that. The last 2 years, I'm not sure he was healthy because I really don't think he got a good chance to really heal. What do you think?
He started getting healthy at the end of at the second half of last season. Yeah. Remember, he started the season with the back. He missed most of all of preseason with a back issue.
Right.
And then before that, the 2 years before that, he was rehabbing or coming back from ACL tear.
Right, the ACL tear, right. And
Now, yeah,
and your
and
lower back, your legs, those things, you got to be ginger about it when you're rehabbing and coming back off an injury. So I'm not sure he was as strong, but he looks strong now. That's the point I'm making. And it looked like you got a glimpse of the January Joe about a month and a half early, bro.
yeah. Well, we talked about Jimmy Smith coming back, but I also wanted to add on the offense, Hayden Hurst is coming back from a
Well, coming in for
foot
the first
injury.
time. He hasn't been
Yeah,
out there yet.
And
He's coming in.
and the only
but he
thing
was he was he was he was a beast in the preseason.
He's our first round
and the
draft
only
pick.
thing yeah. And the only thing I can compare to Joe in January is the December Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
You
you
got
got.
to get the same thing.
I was telling Chris off the air. January Joe is here to start the season. He's focused, and this is what you usually see in the postseason.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well,
just sometimes when they draft your replacement, it kind of wakes you up too.
let me ask you a quick question there, Blaine, because this gentleman cost me a lot of money this weekend. What's up with Alex Collins holding on to the ball, man? Right there at the goal line.
Yeah, yeah. Alex Collins is applauded for the fact that he's hard to stop. He seems to always be going forward, even on contact. But sometimes you just got to go down. And it's hard to make that decision, and it's hard to. I guess I was looking at the Dallas highlights, and Ezekiel Elliott fumbled at the goal line. And I thought of Alex Collins maybe watching that and going, like, see, even Zeke fumbles. But he had that problem last year at the beginning of the year, and he was able to correct it. I expect him to correct it going forward now. And I think you're going to see that running game start as that offensive line gets a little more solidified, and especially when they bring Orlando Brown in at right tackle later on, you're going to see that running game start to take off, especially in the second half of games.
All right, well, we're going to stick with Pittsburgh in a sense. I want to talk a little bit about holdouts and the business behind the NFL and the holdouts. And the two examples that I want to bring up are going to be Le'Veon Bell and Earl Thomas. The reason being, I think Le'Veon Bell has handled his holdout so poorly, unprofessionally. And the idea of you have an idea of you have a number in your head or something that you think you're worth and you want to hold out until you get that contract, that guaranteed money, or else you risk injury. And if you don't, like a lot of people in the league are saying right now, Le'Veon Bell, he's a non-team player, he's a punk. Earl Thomas held out very vocally, very publicly, but he came back for his boys because he wanted to be a team player, and he's worried about he's about to get maybe traded or something's going to happen, and he ends up breaking his leg, and all of his value goes down. His contract negotiation position is weaker, and a lot of things go down. So I want to kind of see where you guys are at, and we'll start with you, Coach Christopher. Uh, I mean, you see what they're saying, right? It's kind of like, well, if I don't protect myself and I don't hold out to get the guaranteed money I want, I might get hurt, and that's it. It's done. At the same time, if you don't, you're a punk and you're not a team player.
Well, the one thing that, as a fan, that we don't sometimes take into perspective is that for these young men, this is a business. This is their livelihood. This is their bodies that they sacrifice week after week for our entertainment. And owners make a lot of money off of the product that they put on the field every week. And for some of these guys, they're looking at how life is after football. And we've seen some of the guys crippled and stuff like that. And a lot of guys are being smarter, want the money more so that they can walk away from the game sooner and not have to play as long or live as long. But you had a different time where the money in football was different. But a perfect example of what Le'Veon was really trying to represent was exactly what happened to Earl Thomas in that respect. There's no guarantee. Again, the NFL, the little pun that we have for the acronym for NFL, not for long, there's a perfect example, And so You have to look at these guys are professionals. These are their bodies that they give up and sacrifice. So for them to require or to expect to be paid for their value of what they bring to the team. Now, to contrast that argument, this kid Connor has come and given you the same thing that Le'Veon is giving you, except for you don't know how he's going to be when you get into those playoff time frames, but you know what you're going to get from Le'Veon. And I'm not sure if he handled that wrong, as a lot of people feel, because he didn't tell anybody what his intentions were. He just stayed quiet and did his talking through agents, which is what he should have done. But I know some of his guys say, hey, he could have talked to us, but you can't risk a guy tipping your hand, because at this point, Le'Veon still kind of has the leverage, because he knows what he's going to get regardless, even if they tag him, with the franchise tag.
Well, Le'Veon is on a short window, and he knows it. Window's closing. Is a narrow window for running backs. This is business, man. I mean, I don't agree with the social media postings and the digs that he was doing. And yeah, he's handled that wrong. I'll give you that. And he shouldn't have told it. He shouldn't have told anybody that he was going to be there day one. If he wasn't going to be. Okay, so yeah, that is a problem in trust in the locker room. I can see the argument for that. Everything else, the Steelers, on the other hand, the Steelers use their leverage. They don't want to pay him that much or as much as he wants, so they're going to keep franchising him as long as they can and use him up. Mm-hmm. And they're going to get all the use out of him, all the play out of him that they can. Well, this year he said, okay, I made some money last year, over my career, and plus big money last year. I can sacrifice a little bit of that and go in later and still accrue my enough games, enough time to make myself a free agent this coming year, and then negotiate with who I want to negotiate with. I have no problems with either side, other than it's the cold side of business when you're going to use somebody to the point where they can't be used anymore. Where you're going to wring them like a rag until the rag is starting to fray. Okay, I have no problem with holding out when the contracts in the NFL aren't guaranteed. It's not like the MLB where a baseball player gets injured and he's still going to make that money from that contract. That contract is fully guaranteed from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. So a team can cut you at any time. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's fair that the players decide to hold out and get better money if they decide that at any point that they want to do that, and they can get away with that. As far as Earl Thomas is concerned, bad fortunes there. I commend him for trying to, do what he thought was right. The middle finger, I don't know where that was directed to. Everybody's speculating it was to the organization, not to the players, and some said it was to the players.
No, it's not to the. I can tell you right now, as a Seahawks fan, it's not to the players. And don't forget, like Earl's promotion. But he was slipping off. I mean, he's slipping off the Seahawks in general, because he went out there and then the one thing he couldn't have happened to him, and he's just frustrated. But don't forget, he's an emotional guy. Remember what happened last time he broke his leg? He retired in the locker room that same game. Well, you guys remember that? I mean, he's an emotional guy. Like, let him cool down, and he'll regret doing that. I guarantee it. But it is what it is.
But in closing, it's a bad fortunes for him. And I feel bad for him, because he did what people wanted him to do, what they thought was the right thing, what he felt was the right thing, and it backfired on him. Hopefully he can come back from this. Just bad fate.
As a fan, what I'd love to see happen is, while he's rehabbing, the Seahawks do what's right, come to the table, give him an extension, and bring him back to where he belongs, home with the Seahawks, get him paid, and award his loyalty and him coming back. Even though, it has been kind of vocal, I don't think that you're going to find anybody in the draft or anyone else that's going to be as good as Earl for the next 3 years. So, I mean, that's a little bit wishful thinking as a fan, but that's what I'd like to see happen.
Oh yeah.
I think that the problem. Go ahead, Coach.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, you would tend to think that, but um,
I doubt it, but
because because the thing that came in my mind, Chris, and is uh man, and his name sat down on me, but the linebacker for um Shazier,
Yeah,
for
Steelers?
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
right,
Yeah, Ryan
right,
Shazier.
yeah. So you look at a situation like that to where they kept him around, they keep him around because of his loyalty. This is how they rewarded his loyalty. You got hurt being part of us, and so now we're going to see it through. They haven't separated themselves. He has more support from that organization than anything. You would love to ideally have the Seahawks come and do that, but let's be honest. Going into this, he may have Earl may have rubbed some of the front office the wrong way,
Yeah,
and
but
so how
yeah,
likely are they to really do that?
well,
As much as we want to hope they would, but this is still a business that Blaine stated so eloquently. Man, this is still a business, and we have to keep that in mind.
yeah, but the Seahawks have a long history of that. Like Cam Chancellor, with the neck injury, he's still around the Seahawks organization. He's doing kind of an internship with coaching. He's helping out there. I remember when Heath Farwell tore his groin so bad the muscle came off of the bone in the preseason game,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he really wasn't ready for anything. They kept him on IR and paid him and put him on as a coaching as a special teams assistant, and now he's coaching in the league. But he got to get his life together. He got to get paid to see if it's really what he wants to do. Did the same thing for Lofa Tupu. They drafted that kid with a heart issue. They kept him on the roster for a year and a half, so all of his medical will be paid. That team has a history of doing stuff like that.
But my
So,
point
Yeah,
is
I think,
but the point I'm making is, but let's look at
but did
the,
Earl burn too many bridges?
the temperament of those guys were all class acts, man, and that's I think what separates this. And even with the way that things were handled and the way he left the field being carted off, man, I know he's an emotional guy, but that's gonna be something that they take
That's
into
class. That
consideration.
was
Yeah,
pretty class.
yeah, yeah. Blaine was about to, go ahead.
yeah,
I'm sorry, Blaine.
I think a lot of teams have that player that gets hurt or something happens to them, and they've become such a beloved player on the team that the team wants the class teams anyway will keep them around, and they're very inspirational to the players, to the fans, and that's what Shazier is. The way that he got hurt, everybody saw it happen, and there's always the hope that he's going to come back from it. But right now, he's that inspirational player to that organization. For the Ravens, it's O.J. Brigance, who played in the '90s as a DB, and he contracted ALS, and he's got a front office job now that he's very, very effective. There he does a very good job there. He's not. I want to emphasize he earned his keep, but he speaks to these players, and these players are inspired by him. What happened with Earl Thomas? He's in the same boat with Le'Veon Bell, where I think it's the relationship is so fractured between him and the organization now that I don't think it's going to be repaired. I know Le'Veon Bell is coming back to the locker room. It'd be interesting to see if he's allowed to play before they can muster some kind of trade, which I don't think the trade is going to come down because of all of the difficulty of that kind of a trade. But I think that I don't think that he's going to be embraced in that locker room the way people will think that he will be embraced. And I think he'll be playing somewhere else for the rest of his career next year.
So I agree with that. So Coach Chris, real quick too, just a quick answer. I think Le'Veon's gone before the year's out. What about you?
Oh yeah, Houston.
Yeah, that make a lot of sense. That make a lot of sense.
I think Houston. That make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, you don't want to trade him into the division, but Houston's a good look.
Go ahead. No, but I think it's what we have to keep an eye. I mean, I know every game that he misses, the contract goes down, the signing money goes down. But you got to look at also, is it worth? What are the Steelers looking for? Is it worth a draft pick or a high draft pick just to have negotiating rights with him. If he doesn't want to sign, if he doesn't want to play for your team, say it's the Texans or the Bills, even some team lower end team like that. What is the benefit of getting him? Why are you going to pay that top money for him for a few week rental?
Yeah, that situation is blown up. But I think what the sticking point is going to be is whoever signs him, it's going to have to be a sign and trade. So before they trade, they're going to have another contract ready for him on the other side before it'll happen. I think that's the sticking point, but we'll see. I want to get you two guys a chance to break down another game that went on this weekend. We'll start with you, Blaine, and we'll go to Christopher. Why don't we talk about your division mates, the Bengals, and that crazy shootout with Atlanta? Because I don't think that defense can stop anybody, and it sucks because Atlanta, that offense is on all cylinders right now, but they're not going to win a lot of games. They can't stop anybody. They got no safeties. I don't know. I'll let you break it down. Go ahead, Blaine, and then we'll hear from you, Chris.
Well, yeah, Atlanta's defense is we're talking about another bad defense here. They're not going to get any better. I don't see a savior coming to help them. Atlanta's not going to make the playoffs. The Bengals defense on the other hand, is inconsistent. They give up too many points per game. They do have Vontaze Burfict coming back, but my question is that really? I mean, how much does that really help them as far as, he's a baller. He's a player. He makes plays, but he is as undisciplined as they come. He can be a disruption as well as an inspiration. So I always say that, they're getting one of their dysfunctional pieces back. Tyler Eifert going down with that ankle break is hurting them. They do have Tyler Boyd still. But Eifert was starting to get back into his form and look like that Dalton had he had another piece there, so now he's lost that piece. Mixon's going to be back. He wasn't playing in this game, so that's another dynamic to this running game. But I think that you look at this Bengals team, they have a potent offense. But their defense, like I said, is inconsistent. They miss tackle. The fundamentals are just, mind-boggling on the team this talented on defense that they can't wrap up and bring somebody down on contact, first contact. I saw Atlanta's receivers and running backs and breaking tackles. That was very consistent. And I want to say that on the previous show I made a statement that Cincinnati was going to find a way to that lucky break to win this game, and they did. In my opinion, that awful rule that with tucking the ball, if your arm is going forward and it comes out, it's a forward pass, even though you don't intend to throw the ball. I saw that happen 3 times this Sunday, twice in the Ravens-Steelers game, one on both sides with Ben and Joe Flacco, and it happened with Andy Dalton where it would have been at the end of the game, the final drive, I believe it was, for the Bengals, where he goes back and he tucks the ball where his arm's going forward, the ball squirts out of his hand. You see him had the other hand up to try and catch it. And it hits the ground. He recovers it, but he's 16. It would have been a 3rd and 16. They call it a fumble. They call it a forward pass, and that's what it ends up being. Instead of 3rd and 16 in a 4-down situation, it's 3rd and 8. Next play, incomplete. 4th down play, enough yardage for a 1st down. This team, this is my own feeling. This is one of the luckiest teams in the league as far as being able to squeak out a victory. But I want to also point out the special teams, the discipline on the special teams. This kid that blocked the field goal and got flagged for offsides, to see him come back and do this very same thing the next snap makes no sense. You're not going to get away with it. It just showed you're not going to get away with it. Each time you do it and you get flagged for it, they move the ball closer to the goal line. That's less pressure on the kicker, the snapper, and the placeholder. Why are you doing that? They also give up too many yards in coverage on kickoffs. Okay,
Yeah.
somebody else
Well,
chime in. I mean,
I don't
Wade,
think.
thinking of all my
Wade's
time
got
for
some
the
stuff
rest of
on
the
that
show.
chest right there.
Well,
Coach Christopher.
I like what we're getting out of Andy Dalton and AJ Green. That's always a good combination. Andy Dalton looks pretty good. He looks like he's back. I don't know if he's healthy again, but he looked good. Joe Flacco looked good. But back to Andy Dalton since we are talking about it. And I like what we have on the defensive front for Cincinnati. But you know, Joe Mixon has been hurt more than he's been on the field, and I'm not sure if he was worth. At least it looks like it on paper, but he's been hurt so much. I don't know if that was worth that draft pick at that point. And it's peculiar because a lot of people feel that Tyler Eifert was on the hot seat, and then he was having a really good game until he broke his foot, and so with his foot as Blaine mentioned. But neither one of these teams can cover. They don't play defense very well beyond the front seven. So it'll be interesting to see. And to think about it, I know Cincinnati can play better defense than that because I really, at this point, I have Cincinnati finishing second in their conference behind, Baltimore. But they gotta pick up their coverage. They gotta cover better because you're not going to be able to outscore every team 37, 40 points to win. Cincinnati, let's be honest.
Well, I think that while Mixon is kind of a disappointment, it's the second year, so that he's coming back this week probably. But I think on the offensive side of the ball for Cincinnati, one of the big surprises, one of the pleasant surprises, if you are a Cincinnati fan, is Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is leading them in targets, receptions, and yards. It's got to be so nice for AJ Green to finally have some target. And I'm a huge. I can't stand Cincinnati's whole philosophy of coaching and what to do with the front office. Because if you think about who they had as their second receiver, they gave away Sanu. They gave away Marvin Jones. Can you imagine if it was Marvin Jones and AJ Green on that field? It's so silly that they keep giving away their number two receivers. So they got another one. Let's see what they can do with it. And heart goes out to Eifert. That injury was nasty.
Yeah.
His leg was laying there just like it was broken off. Oh, that was just no good.
Your foot's going the wrong way, opposite way of your leg. That's
that's rough.
And
I'm sorry, guys.
No,
I was going to say I'm sorry. My speakers went out. I'm not sure it was. Hopefully I wasn't talking over you guys. I got everything back up together now.
All right, good.
Okay.
No problem. No, you were fine. You didn't come in. And then speaking of number two receivers, real quick before we'll get off of this team, but I think that Julio's found his number two in Ridley as well. That kid is looking really good. Alabama, you got the Alabama brothers there working.
Oh, yeah.
They're absolutely just killing it, man. And that kid looks good. So I think that the Atlanta is the kind of team that's going to put it together. The problem is, though, you lose your two starting safeties, you lose some linebackers, you lose some defensive linemen. That defense can't hold up. And it's like I said at the beginning, at the opening of the segment, it's sad because that offense is just running on all cylinders. Matt Ryan's playing like he did in his Super Bowl season. So hopefully they can get that fixed, but I don't see how they're going to be able to do that.
They need better linebacker. Their linebacker play is really bad. Not bad. It's not. Their linebacker play is not the greatest.
Linebacker play and safety play.
I think that's an area that they definitely need to approach and fast. Is their linebacker play. Yeah, secondary could go to improvement, but I mean that conference kind of throws like being a safety against where you have to play against the Rams, or you have to play against Cincinnati, you have to play against Baltimore, you have to play against Pittsburgh, probably, and now you have to play against Cleveland, if they're going to be scoring 30 and 40 points a game, well, we don't know how frequent that'll be, but you're going to have to cover. That's just the honesty. You're going to have to cover it.
All right. So, hey, real quick, Blaine, let's go to you. What do you think about the Mahomes Case Keenum Bowl last night?
I commend Denver's defense for holding that offense in check. It looked like Denver was going to pull it out, but here go, again. I think what happened was just like in the previous game we were talking about, where Atlanta ran out of time. Denver ran out of time because Kansas City's defense wasn't going to stop them. Kansas City's defense can't stop a flat tire from rolling down the field. They're horrible. And the offense, so another lopsided team where you have, they're 4-0, but they're not going to go 16-0 by far. And I think that maybe it's a little bit of the fact that tape has been accumulated on Mahomes now, enough tape that they're starting to defend, starting to see some defense against him. But he is a dynamic quarterback with dynamic weapons. And, you got Hill, you got Hunt, and
Kelsey, Watkins.
Kelsey, yeah. Too many weapons to really defend against. But I think Denver, Denver's defense was not up to par either. I expected more out of them. I didn't see the stats on Von Miller and pressure on Mahomes. I think he got to him that I saw one time, or maybe that was somebody else. But it's just not. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, they didn't allow him to just sit and pick the pocket apart and throw deep balls. They had him uncomfortable. The defense did a really good job, as you brought up. Denver's defense did a really good job of making Mahomes roll in some uncomfortable. But he showed the type of athlete that he is. I mean, especially the one he did with the little left hand shot put throw that he did.
Oh,
I mean, yeah. So that's just a testament to the type of athlete that he is and the type of confidence. One of the things. We were watching the game last night, and Cherie said she was like, he doesn't even look like he's shaking. He looks poised. He looks like he's not uncomfortable for a second-year guy who's in his first year start. And that's exactly what you got. Yeah. You got a guy with some swagger, some confidence, some ability, and he has some talent around him, some big bodies. Again, now you understand why the Rams didn't have a problem with letting Sammy Watkins go, because he stays in a mass unit more than he's on the field. So there he is hurt again, the hamstring. Those big muscles on that boy, it's hard to slow that stuff down when it gets rolling. But, he has some weapons around him, and he can throw the ball and they can stretch the field. And one of the things that Andy Reid is good at is getting his players to play at a high level. And that's what he got right there. So, it's still a lot to be seen, but Denver really made him uncomfortable, and he stepped up to the occasion. And so, a couple of fortunate calls went his way, and a couple of great efforts from him and Kelsey, and that one where he threw the ball to Kelsey on that last touchdown, and Von Miller was like a fingertip away from intercepting that ball, and that's a long run the other way with nobody in front of him, really. So, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And
I like the one that he threw across his body down the field, scrambling.
Dude, and that takes strength, man. That's not an easy thing to do. And so,
no.
So my point is, you see what you have in this guy, and that's why Andy Reid is so excited. And I also respect Kansas City. And again, they have to step up some of their linebacker play too, because they have some weaknesses there too. But that'll be interesting to see how far they go with this kid. He looks impressive,
Yeah, I don't think anyone can doubt that the kid's special. And, any doubts that you've had, through 4 games. And, it was an ugly game, and Denver did throw some things at them that they saw on tape. And division games are always tough. They know each other. They know the ins and outs of each team. Even though it is a new team, they still know each other. Division games are always tough. Going up to high altitude is always tough. I think that if you can have a bit of an uglier game and get out with a win, then God bless, man. It's the NFL. Wins are hard.
Yeah,
It's
but
tough to get wins in the NFL.
but those ugly wins like that are character builders.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
especially for a young kid
For
like
a young
that.
guy, yeah, you come from behind. You got a lot of young talent around you. You come from behind. You make big plays when you needed to make them. Nothing really scary that had you uncomfortable. Like, oh my God! But and people are like, you gotta. And this is gonna Blaine. You might appreciate this a little bit better than Chris, but you got a combination of a Brett Favre and a Randall Cunningham in that guy. Don't you see that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah.
Why would he appreciate that more than me?
Because you're a young buck, dude. Shut up.
I'm a young buck. Oh, God bless you for saying that. Everyone that knows exactly how old I am is laughing at you right now, but I'll take it.
You still a young buck compared to us, dude. Doesn't matter.
I remember being watching Monday Night Football where Randall Cunningham takes a hit from Banks and steps out of it, throws that back. Yeah, I remember Randall Cunningham. Come on, man.
Okay, well, which Randall do you remember? Do you remember the
Eagles.
Philly Randall, or do you remember the Minnesota Randall?
Both.
Oh, okay. All right.
Both. I have a 4 in front of my age, so I'm up there, man. I remember that.
Because that Minnesota Randall that had Chris Carter and Randy Moss, that was a nice one right there.
Yeah, well, he was good. He was good his whole career, but the young Randall, that Philly Randall with that lanky body that you could hit him, but he just bounced up and just looked like he would just flip the wrist and the ball would fly 40 yards down the field. I think that's what you're talking about in this kid, and I see that too.
Well, good. I knew you would see it, Chris, but I took that as an opportunity to take a pot shot at you, man.
It's all good. I'll take it.
Hey guys,
I'm not gonna be called youngster for much longer, so I'll take it.
Hey guys, another note in this game was that last play that on the final drive for Denver, where Sutton receives the ball, gets the first down, but tries to lateral it.
Ladder. Yeah.
I think it was to Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
Now that's one of those plays. That's one of those plays that that's it didn't work out. But if it had worked out, that would have been one hell of an ending to this game.
Oh man!
As far as they had that play, they had locked. They had a blocker there. There was no one down the sideline. Manuel was at a full run. If that DB hadn't have got in on Sutton, if they would have got that off, Manuel was gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But the end of that game reminded me of the same type of where I said Denver ran out of time. Denver ran out of time to tie this game or go ahead. Well, not tie it, but go ahead and win this game. The same thing can be said about the Atlanta game where Ryan threw to, I think it was it Julio Jones or Sanu, as all the way down to they got all the way down to the 10-yard line, and then the clock went to 0. They couldn't do anything more. They ran out of time. These defenses are not able to stop these offenses. That's why I don't see them going deep in the playoffs. If the Chiefs make it to the playoffs, because remember, the Chiefs started off really good last year and then went into a sleep mode somewhere in the middle of the season and then woke up at the end of the season. But they had made such progress at the beginning of the season that it wasn't hard for them to get into the postseason. They're off to a great start again this season, but that defense is not going to carry you anywhere. And the same with Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta's going to make the playoffs.
No. Atlanta's defense can't stop anybody, So,
right.
Now, if you play the Rams this year in the playoffs, now it's a different ball game because the only thing that got you over the Rams is that you were able to score more points. you're not scoring more points than the Rams this year. So
So
now you have to figure.
let's end
So
on
you
that,
have to
Coach.
figure out how to stop somebody. Yeah.
Coach, I want you to expand on that real quick. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let's have our last subject be tonight, because I think that Blaine and I both agree that the best looking team in the NFL right now is the Rams, and I don't think that offense is going to be stopped by anybody. But talk to me a little bit about the Rams and about, are you worried about the defense? Because we're talking about these teams with great offenses and rough defenses. And I think the Rams, they should have a better defense than what they've been showing out on the field. Maybe it's just because they're scoring so fast. The other team's getting so many chances at the ball. But obviously, we don't have to talk about the offense, because the offense is just a juggernaut. But why don't you tell me, as a and the listeners, as a Rams fan and someone that follows the team, what do
I
you
think
think of the team? Are you worried about the defense? I guess that's how I put it.
um, I'm not worried about the defense because some of the things that I've been at the games, and some of the things that happened were just breakdowns from new people on the team, linebackers missing coverage, especially in that Minnesota game. We had a lot of breakdowns in this from disguising a coverage and rolling into another one and getting caught in the original coverage. So those things Wade Phillips will fix. They'll happen in time. But then also you didn't have a key to lead on that side, which would have probably eliminated some of those calls, some of those plays that went in a different direction. But if you remember, if you saw in that game, the one thing that's awesome, and you got to think about this, where you're game planning, you have to game plan for Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald with your front five, and you're going to have to commit at least two guys to one of those guys, which is going to leave Michael Brockers or one of the other guys with a one-on-one. The more that they play together, and I saw it in that fourth quarter, big plays happen when they needed to on the last Thursday night game. You get Aaron Donald, he gets a sack, and then next thing you know, a few plays later, and Ndamukong Suh comes up with a big sack. They just rose to the occasion and were able to, to play as what you got a glimpse of what it'll be like once they get more time to play and gel together. So it's not really a concern about the defenses. It'll come and you'll get a look of last year's defense. Now, Robert Quinn, I was hurt that he left, and you saw the impact that he's having on that Miami defense. But you got Michael Brockers, who's playing in his place and who is doing very, very well. So that defensive front is the strength of this defense, and they're getting some good play out of their linebackers, of course, what they're getting out of Shields. I'm impressed with that. He was away from the sport for a while, from the concussion protocols. He took some time off, and now he's come back. He's playing very good tackler, very the coverage. I got a chance to see some of that. So not really. And again, best team in the NFL at this point, but it's still early in the season, and other teams will get better, and so other teams will get worse. So we shall see. But you know how I'm rooting. Last year I predicted they would go 12-4. My bad, I was off by one. They went 11-5. But you understand what I'm saying.
I'm not worried about that defense at all. They're inconsistent right now, but they're going to come around. I'm sure of it. You got just too much talent to think that they're not going to. And I think it's a lot exactly what you were saying, Coach. It's time that they just need time to gel. You look at this defense; they gave up 13 points against Oakland, and in a win. They shut out Arizona, which is everybody should shut out Arizona. They gave up 23 points in a win against the Chargers, and they gave up the season high 31 to Minnesota. So it's inconsistency. It's not. I don't think that they're bad. I think you got Sue on that line. That's going to be that line, that combination of Sue and Donald is going to wreak havoc. It's going to get worse throughout the for offenses throughout the year as the season goes on. So I don't think that I'm expecting that defense to bounce back. You got that offense that you're going to have a well balanced team here.
Well, the one thing that we have to worry, the one thing that we don't have to worry about, in my opinion, is much competition from our conference. I think most of our competition is going to come from AFC, NFC West competition. Um, let's be honest, San
I have
Francisco, San Francisco, and Arizona will be battling for the bottom spot, and out of default, Seattle's going to get second place in the division because of Russell Wilson alone. So, the Rams should win the conference, and
yeah,
we'll
easy,
we
easy.
and we should see. So they'll have and I think they know this, and I think this will give them the opportunity to experiment and to fine tune. You can make mistakes and it not hurt you because you have a high potent offense that can score with just going with their stuff. And we haven't even seen the full package yet on offense. And right now they're fine tuning the basic defensive scheme that they implemented last year, which everywhere Wade Phillips goes, man, they win. And it's not an accident. God knows what he's doing. We talked about that. That son of bum is a bad man.
Son of
You know.
bomb.
Well, I wanted to say that I'm not worried about this defense, unlike the previous defenses I mentioned. And by the way, I said Atlanta. I meant Cincinnati's defense,
Right.
not being able to go very far in the postseason if they get there, if playing the way they're playing. But I'm not worried about this Rams defense. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to, they're the real deal, and I think that they are a playoff caliber defense.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
well,
I think that says it. Do you want to leave us with anything on your team, coach, or I'm gonna wrap it up?
oh no, you're gonna wrap it up, man. I was just gonna fill in a little bit right there, but also, I will say this much: the wide receiver play. Just to add, the wide receiver play on this team has gotten that much better. You wondered why they gave Brandon Cooks an extension without him playing it. Well, let me say this: I wondered why Brandon Cooks got an extension without even playing a single down yet. And when I saw this guy stretch the field vertically and what he does open up the field and then Robert Woods on the other side, I get it. And the Rams are young, and watch this. They're going to be very good for the next 3 to 5 years, easy.
Yeah, I don't have any. There's nothing I can see. I could say no, but it would just be a lie because I have no evidence to say no because you have all the pieces there. You have them locked up for a while,
Yeah.
and as much as I like having a coach that I hate as a rival, like I used to hate Harbaugh. I love McVay, man. I just
Why?
absolutely love that guy. Why do I love McVay? Yeah, the kid is just like he's like one of those guys.
Why
Just
do you hate Harbaugh?
because Harbaugh's a punk, man.
Oh
Harbaugh's a,
man.
Oh,
Harbaugh's a
you're talking about Jim.
Yeah,
Jim.
he's
Yeah,
talking about Jim.
I like when Jim was there, like pushing coaches and like talking smack to him at the handshake and Pete and them hated each other. Everyone hated each other. Like I like that. And it sucks
Yeah.
because I really like McVay. Like I
And
want the guy to do good. He just happens to be in my conference, in my division, so it makes it a
and
little
and
hard. But I like.
and and the NFC
Kicking
West
plugs out of
was
the socket,
Yeah, he's great. I mean, what did you like about the guy? The guy's
turning
nice.
off the lights during Super Bowl games.
yeah.
Oh
Listen,
yeah,
the NFC West was interesting because you have four coaches who really could not stand each other, and these
yeah,
teams really did not like each other.
yeah.
Especially, well, Seattle against anybody was a rough game. You know,
Yeah, not so much anymore, man. And there's some positive things about the team, but this is not a. We'll get into that on a different show. But hey, folks, check us out at Nuckpods, KNUCKPODS on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us at knuckleheadpods@gmail.com if you want to write us a message. We will be on this show here. Obviously, the one you're listening to or it's being taped will be on live next week, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific on Mancini Sports at Blog Talk radio.com/Mancini Sports. And I want to say thank you to Baltimore Blank. Thank you to Coach Christopher Taylor, and we will see you guys soon.